Good morning, students. As the previous day, we started a new chapter called Tribal Dikus and the Vision of Golden Age. Today, we will start from the some herded animals. Many tribal groups lived by herding and rearing animals. They are pastoralists who moved with their herds of cattle or sheep according to the season. When the grass in the place were exhausted, they moved another place. The Van Gujars of the Punjab hills and Labadis of the Andhra Pradesh were cattle herders. The Godis of Kulu were shepherd and the Bakrawals in Kashmir reared goats. We will read more about them in your history book next year. Some took to settled cultivation. Even before the 19th century, many from within the tribal groups had begun settling down and cultivating their field in one place year after year. Instead of moving from place to place, they began to use the plough and gradually got right over the land they lived on. In many cases, like Mundas of the Chotanagpur, the land belonged to the clan as a whole. All members of the clan are regarded as descendants of the original settlers who had first cleared the land. Therefore, all of them had right to learn on the land. Very often, some people within the clan acquired more power than others. Some became chief and other followers. Powerful men often rented their land instead of cultivating themselves. British officials saw the settled tribal group like the Gonds and Santals as more civilized than hunter-gatherers or shifting cultivators. Those who lived in the forest were considered to be wild and savage. They need to be settled and civilized. How did colonial rule affect tribal lives? The lives of the tribal group changed during the British ruler. Let us see what this change were. What happened to the tribal chiefs? Before the arrival of the British, in many areas the tribal chiefs were important people. They enjoyed a certain amount of economic power and had right to administer and control the territory. In some places they had their own police and decided on the local rulers of the descended on the local ruler of the land and forest management. Under the British rule, the function and the power of the tribal chief changed considerably. They were allowed to keep their land title over a cluster of villages and rent out land, but they lost much their administrative power and were forced to follow the law made by British officials in India. They also had to pay tribute to British. The discipline the tribal group on the behalf of British. They lost the authority they had earlier enjoyed amongst and their people and were wannabe to fulfill their traditional functions. What happened to the shifting cultivation? The British were uncomfortable with the group who moved about and did not have a fixed home. They wanted tribal group to settle down and become peasant cultivators. Settled peasants were earlier to control and administer than people who were always on the move. British always wanted to regular revenue source of the state for the state, so they introduced land settlement. That is, They measured the land, defined the rights of each individuals to that land, and fixed the revenue demand for the state. Some peasants were declared land owners, other tenants. So, as you have seen, the tenants to pay rent in the lowland owners who are turned paid revenue on the state. The British effort to settle the jhum cultivation was not very successful. Settled plough cultivation is not easy in areas where water is scarce and soil was dry. In fact, jhum cultivation who took the plough cultivation often suffered since their field did not produce good yield. So the jhum cultivators in northeast India insisted on the continuing with their traditional practices. Facing widespread protest, the British had to ultimately allow them the right to carry the shifting cultivation on some parts of forest. Forest laws and their impact. The life of tribal group, as you have seen, was directly connected to the forest. So change in forest laws had a considerable effect on the tribal lives. The British exchanged their control over all the forest and declared that the forest were state property. Some forests were classified as reserved forests for their produced timber, which the British wanted. The forest in this forest, people are not allowed to move freely, practice jhum cultivation, collect fruits or hunt animals. However, jhum cultivation on to survive or hunt animals. However, jhum cultivation to survive in such situation, many are therefore forced to move to other areas in search of work and livelihood. But once the British stopped the tribal people from living inside the forest, they faced a problem. From where would the forest department get their labor to cut trees for railway sleepers and the transport logs? Colonial officials came up with a solution. They decided that they would give jhum cultivators a small patches of land in the forest and allow them to cultivate this on the condition that those who lived in the village would have provide labor in the forest department and look after the forest. So many regions, the forest department established forest villages to ensure the regular supply of the cheap labor. Many tribal groups reacted against the colonial forest laws. They disobeyed the new rule, continued with their practice that were declared illegal, and at times time rose the open rebellion. Such was the revolt of the Sangama in 1906 in Assam and the forest satyagraha of 1930 in the central province. The problem with trade. During the 19th century, tribal groups found that the trades and the money lenders are coming into the forests more often, wanting to buy forest products, offering cash loans and asking them to work for wages. It looked tribal groups sometimes understand that the consequences of what was happening. Let us consider that the case of silk growers. The 18th century Indian silk was the demand in European market. The fine quality of Indian silk was highly valued and the exports from India increased. rapidly. As the market expanded, East India Company officials tried to encourage silk production to meet the growing demand. Hazaribagh, in present-day Jharkhand, was an area where the Santals reared cocoons. The traders dealing in the silk sent their agent who gave loans to the tribal people and collect the cocoons. Growers were paid 3 rupees to 4 rupees for the 1,000 cocoons. These were then exported to Bardhaman and or Gaya, where they were sold in 5 times in the price. The middlemen, so called because they arranged the deal between the exporters and the silk growers, made huge profit. The silk growers earned very little. Understandably, many tribal groups saw the market and traders as their main enemies. The search for work. The plight of the tribal who had to go far away from their homes in search of work was even worse. From the late 19th century, tea plantations started coming up and mining became an important industry. Tribal were recruited in large number of work in tea plantation of Assam and in the coal mining in Jharkhand. They were recruited through the contractor who paid them the miserably low wage and prevented them from returning home.